Welcome to Midlife Women Entrepreneurs. My name is Lynette Turner, and I am your host. Today's episode, my guest and I are talking about something a lot of midlife women feel, but don't always have the words for, and that is feeling invisible. It can look like second guessing yourself, staying quiet when you have something to say, or talking yourself out of what you want before you even started. And it can quietly steal what should be literally one of our best chapters of our life. So this episode is for you if you have an idea for a business, but then you hear that voice that says, I don't have the skills, I don't know what to offer, and I don't know where to start, and therefore you freeze. Katrina, I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Give yourself a bit of an introduction, and we're going to take it from there.
Oh, hi, Lynette. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. Yeah. Sydney. Well, Happy New Year, everyone.
Exactly.
Great vibe that we're coming into. We're going to be moving into the fire horse this year, which I absolutely love, that idea of galloping along and picking up speed and being free and powerful. And that's what I want for all the women out there that are thinking, oh gosh, I'm invisible. I don't even get that. So to me, it's a mindset. So I'm all about women starting not their final chapter, but you know what I mean, their next chapter in their over 50s and starting to put it all together for them, because we don't know what we don't know. So entrepreneurship can be a little bit of a daunting mystery for some people. And so that's why business mentors are there like me to help you through that. But for now, it's about just getting you to decide that you are going to create a next chapter. And that's what I'm all about.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you today. So Katrina, go specifically into who is that woman that you help?
Well, look, if you want to retire and play golf and travel or whatever, that's fine. That's a certain type of woman, I reckon. For me personally, I couldn't think of anything worse. And I don't actually believe in retirement. I think there is going to be an end to my life where I can't walk or talk or do anything for myself. That's when it's, starting to wind down. But prior to that, I'm 56 now. I expect to still be on stage at sort of 80, 85 and still writing books and speaking and just training and coaching people. There's no reason why I can't. And so I think that there's certain kind of women that want to do something, want to contribute, want to stay commercial, and they just don't know what that is. I seem to have this gift, this sort of a natural genius zone where I just spend the first 15 minutes with people and I get them to talk about their life. And I see it like baking a cake. So we get the cake bowl out and I start to put all the things in that they say. So, they were brought up a certain way. They were from a certain area. They had these sort of life experiences. They've had this sort of work experience and these sorts of tragedies have happened and, their big stories and whatever else. So we mix all that up in a bowl, put that in the oven, and out comes this cake that is unique to you. That is your personal brand business, in my view. And that is completely unique. So once we add the cake decoration, that becomes your brand. And then the little cherry on top is sort of like the thing that makes you completely unique and special. But to me, everyone's got a cake in them. We can decorate it in the most perfect brand just for you to reinforce your expression in the world. And I just think there's so many women out there going, is this it? Is this all there is? Do I just retire and then die up on the dog golf course? I don't think so. I think when I feel at 56, I actually feel 30. And so I've got a lot of life left in me. And I think you have a sense of that inside of your own body. And, your vitality does not need to dim over time, and nor should it. And so that's what women are looking for now. Women are looking for what's that next bit where I'm not working 9 to 5. I'm not working like a dog for 50 or 60 hours a week. What is this wonderful lifestyle business? What is this lovely personal brand business where I can share my wisdom as the wise one in the village and get out there in the world and allow that personal brand business to take you around the world?
Exactly. And, it's interesting how you describe it, like that you're putting all these different things into the bowl and you create this personal brand. And most people would think, well, I have to come up with this idea first of what I'm going to sell or what I'm going to offer, what am I going to do in midlife? And so I feel like that's maybe where they're getting stuck, and
Yeah. Well, you'll end up with the brand. There'll be brand essence that will come out of it through these talks. But most of the time when I'm having these sort of free discovery sessions with people, I use them as an opportunity to have a dig around. And when I find it, and that's the magic, I go and find the magic, then I present that back to them within about 15 minutes. And then they light up. Their whole body starts to tingle. And that's when you know you've arrived at your clarity. That to me is clarity, where you go, aha moment. Wow. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing to specialize in this or that. And so that's my job. I like people to leave that up to me. 95% of the time, they have no clue what pot of gold they're actually sitting on. It's my job to dig for it and bring it up to the surface. And that's what I feel my mission is to give people crystal clear clarity on who they are and what they could be doing out there in the world. And if it doesn't light you up, then don't do it. What most people are looking at is the stock standard stuff. So they're, when you don't have a clue, you end up being able to, people can sell you any old thing. So people are going to online businesses and, flogging product from China and drop shipping and all of this sort of, if that lights you up, then go for your life. But I don't feel women of substance, wise women of the village, really want to be doing that. That doesn't seem very wholesome or doesn't seem very nourishing in any way. What I want for women is for them to become authors first, then speakers, trainers, coaches, mentors, facilitators, and consultants. And that's 7 streams of income inside your personal brand business. And I give them the model, I give them the strategy, and then we layer the brand on top of that. So to me, they're not coming with, what shall I do? Here's the model. Here's what we're going to do. 7 streams of income. You're going to become an author, speaker, trainer, coach, mentor, facilitator, and consultant. And then once you've got that happening, you can then see what the market does. The market might be much more one-on-one and you're doing coaching one-on-one. Sometimes the market's a little bit more group work, training. So you're doing a lot more training, and you just let one of these sort of facets of your business develop, and the market speaks. But I make sure you've got it all, so that it doesn't matter what the market says, you've got it there. You've got your residential retreats, you've got your 2-day workshops, you've got your 1-day workshops. It's all the same program, all the same philosophy, your philosophy, but it's just in different formats. So I make all of that, 7 streams of income plus various formats available to you, and we build it all in 90 days. So if I didn't do that for them and for people, what would happen is they would faff for 5 years, and have a look at your clock now. How long have you been faffing for? And it also saves them about $75,000. And that's where they go and they buy this program and that program and this program, and they work with this person, and they learn this, but they never implement anything. They get overwhelmed, and each silver bullet needs to be in a whole ecosystem. So what I've created is the whole ecosystem, everything they need to get started, all under one roof. So they're not being distracted by all the silver bullets and all the bibs and bobs. Everything gets created and it's done for you. So you're not having to be a technical expert, which will take, it's taken me 25 years to get to here. So technically it's very difficult in today's world, isn't it? With all the technical. Yeah. And just when we thought we'd sort of nailed it, AI's come along and changed the whole landscape. So for me, I'm looking at, how does my business evolve and change? And not that my life will be any easier, but what it will do is it allows me to do things much easier in that way, so that I can spend more time on the more important things, less on the technical stuff. So it's going to be an amazing ride. We're on this earth right now for some reason, and it's exciting times, and you want to get in to the party. You want to get into this nightclub. It's going to be amazing. And the last thing you want to be is invisible. And I honestly believe that invisible thing is a mindset. You've chosen to say that and try and make that true. It's actually not true for Lynette and I. We don't believe that. So we don't see that. Whereas if you believe that, you're going to see that. It's a choice. It really is a choice. It's a lifestyle choice. So my job is to get rid of all of that programming, get rid of all of that kind of mindset stuff and switch it into more universal truth rather than the lies we tell ourselves.
Exactly. And I love how you said, like, how you have the 7 streams of income, because I feel like sometimes, and I've worked with a lot of midlife women who, we hone in and we're coming up with these ideas. And there's so many ideas out there that people could do once they, start to throw all the ingredients onto the table. And then you start to, like you said, kind of create this cake with it. But I do like the 7 streams of income. When you talk about the 7 streams of income, is it through one vein of a subject or a topic, or is it different types of things? Like you talk about being a speaker, an author, a coach, and the other 4. Is it all sort of based on one common theme or one vertical?
It is, but I call it your philosophy. So your philosophy, if you look at it like the book, so this is why I get them to write the book first, because the book says, here I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm about. Read it in 2 hours, you can get me. So the book, if you think about that, the book is a theme. That you're in a lane and you're talking about this big concept usually. But within that is chapters. So you've got all these chapters saying that in this theme, you've got to be thinking about this and this and this and this. And so to me, if I broke the book down, which I do for all my clients, I break it up into 300 social media posts of quotes from them. So there's all your bibs and bobs. And then every chapter is a speech. You could create a whole speech, a TED talk out of each chapter if you wanted to. So what the book does and what the philosophy idea does, allows you to sit inside a lane. It allows you to become the expert in that particular field of excellence, but it doesn't restrict us too much. And what happens is you end up speaking generically about the theme on occasion, most of the time, but then every now and again, a conference organizer will want you to speak on that particular chapter and that you can blow up into a speech. It doesn't bother me as long as you're speaking. What happens when you get really good at this is it doesn't matter what the theme is, doesn't matter what they want. You can deliver a talk because you've got a philosophy, your views, you've got an opinion, and then you just craft it into the kind of theme that's you. So for example, you and I are talking specifically today about midlife, whereas I don't hit the market as a midlife entrepreneur specialist. However, that doesn't concern me. I definitely can fit into that. I definitely have an opinion on that. But at the same time, I am inspired by and enriched by this conversation because it fits in my lane. But you've gone out with a brand around that particular field of excellence. And then I can slot beautifully inside of that when we have our conversation. So that's the beauty of having a beautiful philosophy, is it becomes very flexible and can go places. You're not just think about confidence. If you wanted to become a confidence expert, see how that's a very big lane. But within that there's I know what the first 3 chapters of that will be: self-belief, self-worth, and self-assurance. So there's 3 things I can already talk about specifically to when I'm out there speaking. So it's very flexible. So yes, it sounds like, there's the model, but the model has a lot of flexibility in it. And that's the beauty of it. That's why it's lasted for 25 years, is because it's.
So you're saying start with the book. To me, when I hear that, I think overwhelmed. How do I start to write this book? It feels overwhelming, and it feels like, do you ever find that sometimes if somebody's going to start on the book first, then it gets stalled easier?
Yeah, well, that's why I make it really easy. So I've got a sort of a way of doing it so that people don't get bogged down. And we start with a 2-day kickoff. So the first day is all about the business plan. and the strategies and what we're doing, where the money is, where the money isn't, what's the 7 streams of income and all the details. So you get the whole big picture and all the details day one. So you know who you are and what you stand for. Then the second day, what we do is we pull out your philosophy. So I'm pulling it out of you. This is my job, is to pull it out of you. And then we create from the philosophy this book outline. And because we've got a whole day to spend doing this, we end up doing all the chapters, all the sub-chapters, and we even put a little bit of meat on the bone so that when you go home and write this book in the next 7 days, not a year, not kerfuffling around, but in 7 days, the book writes itself. And I give them all the tips and the tricks on how to do that really quickly and easily, because I can't do much else until I get that book draft back. So I'm really hanging my hat. So for every week they take to write that book, I'm delayed in delivering their ecosystem, which I'm going to build in 90 days. So TikTok, everybody, but no pressure. If they take 2 weeks, that's fine. If they even took a month, I could handle that. But you never start with a blank piece of paper. You never start with, what am I going to write today? You go away with a book outline and you see the whole book in front of you. And that makes book writing really, really easily.
So Katrina, are you saying is a published book, or is this book used for you as a bit of a reference to then again do the rest of the work for this client,
No, it's a published book. We end up with a paperback and an ebook. That's all on Amazon. And then once we are number one bestseller, which 100% of my clients become number one bestseller when we do that first launch in the program, then we bring it back and put the book on our website. And that's where we want it to stay. We want to do all our book sales on our own website where we can know who they are and build a database of who bought it and send them a signed copy. And then that way you can see who's bought your bought your book and who might be interested in you. Whereas on Amazon, you have no clue who bought you. So that's pretty much a waste of time, really. We don't hang our hat on Amazon either, but we are self-publishing. And yes, somebody, you go and build the book, you go and build the community, and then a publisher may come knocking. But we're not waiting around for that to happen. We're not dealing with 100 rejections. We don't care. If you sell $5,000 of your book in a year, you are in the top 1% of all.
Yeah.
So, let's not worry about that. The book is a positioning tool. It positions you as the expert. If you don't have a book, you're not an expert. Do you know what I mean? It's still got gravitas today. And that's why the experts are still writing books, is because there's something about it that makes a statement about who you are. From the book, we create the speech, the keynote, the TED Talk. And from the book, we create the trainer's guide for your 3-day residential retreat. So without the book and without you having done the rigor of writing the book, really defining your message and who you are and what your opinions are, then it's very difficult to create training programs and talks. And so for me, this is where people go wrong. They go and create some online program first, or go and do some training first, or go and get up on the stage and do a talk. It's all backwards. Start with the book. Really sit down first and say, right, who am I and what am I going to stand for? And it really defines it. And then as you go through the process, you're layering in levels of confidence. So by the time you do get up and speak or train or coach, you've really done the rigor and you feel strong in your view and in your approach. Whereas, the other way around, I don't think really works.
It makes sense. Yeah, to me, that does make a lot of sense. I think a lot of women would think, well, I've got to accomplish all these things first and then I'll write my book. But I think she's already accomplished so much because she is sort of in midlife, and that whole feeling of invisibility is, like you said, it's built that writing the book, getting it written, getting it out of your head and onto the piece of paper. It feels like there's that confidence builder there too. So it's sort of your bridge to feeling less and less invisible all the time. And then whack them with, you're going to go right on stage and you're going to start to get the speaking engagements. So how does somebody take that book then and start to look at it as a public speaking type of thing? I mean, again, publishing a book is difficult. Getting on stage is difficult. How does somebody start to think, well, okay, well, this won't be all for naught. It will actually help me find these opportunities.
Well, the book in isolation, this is where people go wrong. Authors write books all the time, and that's the end of it. Like, they think that's their business model. Whereas to me, it needs to belong in an ecosystem, because the book is not where the money is. The speaking is not really where the money is either, unless you are going to just simply focus on being a keynote speaker, at sort of, it could be anything from $5,000 per speech to $25,000 speech and so on, depending on how famous you are. But even at $5,000 per speech, if you're going to just focus on that, whereas I don't want $5,000 per speech, I want to take $100,000 from the room every time I speak. It's a different business model. And so the one I focus on is taking the $100,000 from the room.
Mm-hmm. And so what does that mean? Unpack that a little bit.
People, is about a third of the audience will love you, a third of the audience will hate you, and about a third of the audience don't care. So when you're in the right room with the right people, that third of people will come up and fill in a form for the free discovery session. I now have their details. I now have the control of putting them into my diary and having a deep and meaningful conversation with them, because they've connected with me. They've connected with my energy. They've connected with my message. That's why they've come up and filled in the form to have a meeting, a free discovery session. If you don't get that bit, they go out of the room and they've forgotten everything about it. They go back to life. Life gets back in the way. So if you don't capture them there and then, you've got no chance of selling in the next step, which is your signature program. And this could be a $5,000 program, $10,000 program, or a $20,000 program, whatever, plus. So once they hear you in the speech, they connect, they fill in the form, say they want a free discovery session. They also might buy your book there and then, and you sign it. But that is not the objective. The objective is the free discovery session, not the book. I'll give them the book any day of the week. That doesn't bother me. So anyway, free discovery session, have a meeting, see if they're suitable. You're qualifying both ways, and you give them I give them crystal clear clarity on what their life could look like. And then from there, sign up to your signature program. May need a second meeting. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. Your signature program. So if you are selling $10,000 program, then you need 10 people in the room to sign it. There's your 100,000.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of thinking of it. I never even thought about, what is the call to action after, a speaking opportunity. And I think, yes, you have to constantly be thinking about the call to action. What do you do when a woman comes to you? Obviously, you probably do a bit of a discovery session yourself. She feels like there's a good fit, but then all of a sudden she's like, but I don't really have a story. My story's kind of boring if I did be able to write a book.
Guess how many times I've heard that in 25 years?
Yeah, I know. Probably a lot.
I actually do not buy into it. I don't believe it to be true. They think it's true. That's part of their programming and that part of their conditioning. So I just ignore all that. The thing about it is, I ask my clients, I go, are you bored with being humble and modest? Are you bored with that now? Do you think that's a bit overused? How about, we do something different, because you've been playing small. You've stayed safe. Well done. Congratulations. Here's the trophy for being the most humble and the most wonderful and the most, agreeable, good girl I've ever seen. Congratulations. Now, I am not interested in that part of you. That part of you is of no use to this business. None. What we're going to do is we want to feel inside of you that there is some spark, something inside of you that says, I want to be more, have more, do more, express myself. That's the whole point of coming here and having a human experience. How do you want to express yourself? And so I slap them around a little bit. I get them to see that they are the good girl, and that's, they've lived their lives like that. And now this is a whole different chapter. And that's the beauty of moving into perimenopause and menopause is I see it as a burning off of the good girl, a burning off of the humble, and a burning off of the modest, because this no longer serves us. Now we stand up as the powerful, credible women that we are, and we express ourselves as the wise woman with wisdom within the village, because the younger generation and the women around us want to hear what we've got to say. And that's my job, is to position you, package you, price you up in your field of excellence. That's my job. You don't have to worry about that. So you can be going, oh, I don't have a story. Well, I'll go find the story, but I don't know what philosophy is. I go bring that out of you. I create that with you. Can you see? You need someone like me to pull it out of you. That's my job. You don't have to come to me with all the answers. In fact, 99% of people don't. It's just, there's some spark in you that thinks, I don't know why I'm signing up for this stuff, but I'm signing up. I want to have 1 hour with Katrina, and I want to see what she sees. I want to feel what she feels about me. And I'm curious. Just please to God, just be curious about what is in there, and let me go and have a little rummage about, and let me draw it out of you. And I'll show you, like a mirror back at you, what it is that I see. And usually the humble, modest woman says, I'm boring. I don't know. I don't think I'm anything. Yeah. Typical.
So that's the brand essence that you're talking about, where you really like, let's break that a little bit down, because when I think about branding, obviously the first thing you think about is like, what's the name? What's the colors? What's the font? But the essence and the values, like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the way I work that out is I wait until we've done the philosophy, we've done the book outline, and we've got the first draft back. Now, as I'm in that book and I'm hearing, that's why I don't touch her while she's writing that first draft. I'm going to proof it, edit it, fix it all up later. But for now, I want to see the way she expresses herself. I'm looking for her voice, and I'm looking for the way she says it inside that book. And so as I'm putting it together and I'm editing it and I'm proofing it and I'm formatting it and I'm coming up with an essence of it, that then turns into a book cover. Now, the book cover and what we land on and finalize in the book cover is what then dictates the rest of the brand. It gives us our colors. It gives us our name, gives us our font. It gives us everything we need to then develop a brand. And then the brand becomes the website. And then the website becomes the social media look and feel. And then the book becomes 300 posts that are all scheduled for the next 12 months. So can you see that book cover and the voice within the book, we will determine after the book is starting to be finalized. We do not touch the brand, the look and the feel and the colors and the whatnot until it is done, because that is the thing we're waiting for. That's the jewel in the crown that holds the message, holds the essence. And so we wait till that's landed. And then
I love it. I love everything you're saying. I can see it, it does make total sense about just the journey of working with you. The first thing I think about is like, oh my God, how much is that going to cost? But, you don't even have to explain that on the show, but you do offer, if somebody is listening and is thinking, I would love to work with this lady, what does that look like?
So we just have the free discovery session first. So there's no pressure. We just get to know each other. Today, we're talking very generically and very broadly about certain things, but once I'm in the free discovery session, I go deep into you. It becomes very personal, very specific, and that's where the rubber hits the road. We really want to get in there. We don't want to think generically or widely anymore. We want to think about you and you specifically. And then once they decide, oh my God, the program's for me, Katrina's for me, I can feel her energy. I know she's going to hold space for me the whole 12 months. And in the first 90 days, we're going to build I build the whole ecosystem for them so they don't have to faff around with that all. We just decide on the 2-day kickoff. And once we've got the 2-day kickoff dates, to me, that begins the whole journey. It goes from a sales and marketing situation to a client. And yeah, we do the 2-day kickoff. And I use that time to go very deep with the people. So we're building a very strong foundation, a very strong relationship. I will know them better than their friends and family know them. I will know their business like the back of my own hand. And so I become a strategic partner. I become a friend. I become I'm their business mentor and they're obviously an executive coach, but at the same time, I'm their therapist. So all the therapy is included in the program. All the coaching is unlimited. All the mentoring is unlimited over that 12 months. They might need a lot of coaching around speaking. They might need a lot of coaching around writing. I've worked with dyslexic people. Dyslexic people will be very good on stage, but they'll really struggle with the book. So different people will struggle more than other people at different stages of the program. That's why you need unlimited coaching, unlimited mentoring, and unlimited therapy, because being an entrepreneur is one of the biggest personal development programs you'll ever do, because it just brings up all your stuff, all your fears and all your, limiting beliefs. It brings it all.
At the beginning of the podcast, you had mentioned like I'll save you $75,000 because of all the programs you didn't have to buy.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people have already purchased programs, me included. And there's one very popular person, and, I spent a lot of money on her programs and one on a one-on-one coaching, which was a complete flop. And so I feel like, I wish I would have known you 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because there are these people out there that are, they're good, but they're only good from a marketing perspective. But when you actually get into their program, you're kind of left hanging to do it yourself. Or if you have paid for the coaching, it doesn't really work. You're just being coached, like you said, by, a 21-year-old who feels like she has already started. She's got her business. And so therefore she feels that she's coachable. She's a coach in itself. But I digress there. If I had to say, just before we close, there obviously is the discovery session. It doesn't sound like it would be a very hard sale pitch when you get into that discovery session. It's very, sort of like very, very much how you've spoken on the podcast, which is good, because I've also been in situations where you get on that discovery call and it is like hardcore. You can't even hang up the phone. And I have gone through that, and it's terrible. It's that bro culture kind of sales stuff. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work from a feminine energy perspective or anything. One thing I want to ask you to do is just, as you had mentioned earlier, the cherry on the top. I'd like you to put a cherry on the top of this interview and give us just a little small customer use case, a story of a woman that has come into your under your wing, I suppose is the best way to say it. And take us through a little bit of her journey.
Look, somebody that I've worked with for 8 years now, like this relationship is 8 years in, and it has just blossomed into the most amazing thing. And we're just now working on a whole new thing. So the journey is beginning again after 8 years, which is amazing. So she saw me speak at a industry conference for her industry. She filled in the form for the free discovery session. We met up halfway because we were like 4 hours away from each other. So we met 2 hours in the middle, and we sat down for lunch. And I think 2 or 3, 4 hours later, we were having such a good time, and we went very deep on the free discovery session. And she was just lucky to get that. But that's because I've traveled. When you travel for a little bit longer, the meeting's a bit longer, and it's a little bit more social when you're eating lunch. So anyway, we had a great time. We bonded. I nutted out the whole vision I had for her. She came with a very small, specific thing, and then I showed her what she could have. We went and built that. In her 3rd year, she did $1 million in rep. She got to $1 million in revenue. And then as the years progressed, they kept me on as every year I would be MC their conference. I'd be a speaker at their conference, and I kept within the business very closely. And then she put on a co-founder. She then passed the co-founder the CEO role, and she's now sort of semi-retired. And then once she had rested a little bit and got some headspace around that, she then came back to me going, "I'm ready." I said, "Okay, babe, let's go." And so we've just put the final touches to her book. So her book is finished. The website's in its first, second draft, and then the whole thing will begin again, but with a different take on it, but taking everything she's learnt from the last 8 years, of course, but turning it into for a specific market, put it that way. So we're still friends. We're still having fun. She's going to come down in a couple of days and we're going to, write up the trainer's guide and do the signature program and put together that $10,000 experience. And so I'm excited. That's the sort of thing I want to do. When you work with me, it's not about 1 year. It's about loving having me in your back pocket for the rest of your business life, probably. And then a friendship blossoms because I get you and you can open up, you can be vulnerable. I see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the cherry on top for me, whenever you're feeling bad about things and about what you haven't done and what you'd like to do and what your yearnings are in your heart, I want you to think, write this down. If not you, then who? If not now, when? And that's my mantra for all my clients.
Yeah, that's great. I think too, like so often we're thinking, oh, well, no one wants to hear my story. No one's going to want to hear me, speak. We are our worst enemy, really. And then through time, that's where we become this invisible. And so I really appreciate your framework. I really appreciate what you're doing. And Katrina, where do people find you? Let's leave that for them.
Thanks, Lynette. Go to becomingtheexpert.com.au. You can download a free checklist there of all the things that you're either going to need to do by yourself or all the things that I do for you within the program. So you've got this sort of show bag so you know what you're getting. Nothing worse than a nebulous offer and you don't know what you're going to get once you get in there. Well, you can download the checklist so you know exactly what you're going to get. But you'll get more than that. It's just this is all I put down on the front. And then book in for your free discovery session there. And also explore the website. There's all the examples and there's videos and there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can just do your due diligence and have an experience and sort of get it straight in your mind as to what's going on.
Katrina, you've been amazing.
Wait, see you soon.